part A of today's build is 3 sets of 5 to 10 shrimp squats. So shrimp squat is knee lightly touching the floor, mimicking your single leg squat, holding your back heel if you can, like so. Scale for this, as Jack's using now, reduce the range of motion. We've obviously got a sandbag at home. You could use stack of books, you could use cushions, something to make that depth, that range of motion shorter. The better you are, try and increase the depth maybe over the next few weeks, or as you go on, maybe each set, try and go a little bit lower if you can. So holding your back foot if you can. If you can't, Jack, just do a couple of reps. You still lightly touch just your knee. Make sure your foot's not touching the floor at the bottom. Like so, 5 to 10 on either leg, 3 total sets. Part B is going to be 3 sets of single leg squats, also known as a pistol squat. So for this, again, the way of scaling it, we're scaling your range of motion. If Jack does a full pistol, all the way down, making sure knee tracks over his toes, try to keep as upright as possible. These are very difficult for people, and a lot of people are going to struggle with flexibility in their hips, in their ankles, and they might feel like they get to a certain point and that's kind of their limiting factor. So what you can do with this is come around the side a little bit. Jack's going to do the same thing, but he's going to use the bench just to cut that depth off a little bit. And now he can even lightly rest his bum on the bench as he goes down and stand back up again. With these as you go, let's say Jack's doing all 3 sets on the bench. He wants to try and put as little weight as possible onto the bench, so that maybe by the 3rd set, he's just very lightly touching the bench and squatting back up again, the same as you would a single leg squat, instead of just sitting down, collapsing, and then kind of heaving all his weight back off the bench. So find something you can lightly touch, back up again, 5 to 10 reps, and then swap over onto your other side, same thing for 3 total sets. Part C is going to be 15 to 20 reps of a weighted hip thrust. Back on your sofa or on a bench or a table, something where it's slightly off the ground but not too high. Legs at the top should be at about 90 degrees, so really vertical shin, and then obviously hips and back should be parallel to the floor, making sure you're really squeezing your glutes, hips come up to the ceiling at the top of the rep and lower down under control. 15 to 20 reps, you might need to adjust that slightly depending on the weight of your dumbbell. Second movement is a stiff leg deadlift. So using Jack's weight, he has a very slight bend in his knee to start with, and then from there, all the movement should be hinging over at the hips, keeping a relatively straight leg, and Jack's back is flat all the way through. How far you go down is going to depend on your flexibility of your hamstrings and how well you can keep that flat back. So you're just going down low enough where you get a good stretch in the hamstrings and you feel it, but all the way through, your back is flat and you're never rounding that lower back at all. Common mistakes with this is going to be starting with a little bend in the knee, and then as people go, it turns into a normal deadlift because they get to that point at the bottom and then they end up bending their knee to get a little bit lower. That's not what the movement is. It should be stiff leg, so you're only going down as low. I get to about here, that's my end range of motion. Squeeze my bums and hamstrings back up to the top. Same thing for this movement, 15 to 20 reps. Really controlled, only go as low as you can. What I like to do, film it from the side on your phones, watch it back in your rest to make sure you've got a flat back all the way through. 3 total sets. 3 sets, starting with kneeling to standing dumbbell front rack. So Jack has the dumbbell in his front rack, you start kneeling tall. Jack then steps up with that same leg that he has the hand with the dumbbell in, steps back again, like so. So the leg under the dumbbell is always the first to move, and then the final one to step back. He's going to do 8 reps with it on this side. Let's say that's 8 there. Jack swaps over, and now his right leg is first to move, and the last to come back again. He's going to do 8 reps like so. Make sure you always stand tall, always squeezing your bum, posture's good. 8 reps per side. Second movement, 10 to 20 lateral leg lifts. So in that pike position, making sure if you can, hands are in front of you, crunching down, lifting toes and heels over the dumbbell. You want to lightly touch your heel to the floor on either side. It shouldn't be a big crash. A lot of people have to scale this. What Jack will do is shuffle his bum closer towards the dumbbell, pull his knees into his chest, and that should make it a little bit easier rather than straight legs. So to make this easier, if that's still quite hard, Jack can always go lower dumbbell, like so, brings his knees into his chest, make sure you're crunching forward, don't let yourself lean back and swing your legs. So a little bit like a hollow position, you should be crunching forward, making sure you're controlling your feet rather than leaning back and swinging. Nice and controlled, 10 to 20 reps. Alternate those two movements, 3 sets. Part E, 5-minute EMOM, 25-second hollow hold. Scale the time up or down as you need to. So full hollow hold, Jack's crunching down, sticking his lower back into the floor, arms overhead, toes pointed, making sure all the time he's crunching down, keeping in that hollow position. Scaled version for this could be arms in front, but legs still straight. So he's reaching here, still crunching down, shoulders off the floor, rest. Another scale could be that tuck position. So bringing his knees in, reaching forward again, still sticking his lower back into the floor, or there's loads of different variants. He could go one leg out, he could go 2 leg out, one arm, however fancy you want to make it. Most important thing is going to be crunching down all the time, holding for about 25 seconds, give or take a little bit if you need to, but try and make sure you're really consistent for every minute, 5 total minutes.